Have you ever looked around and wondered why some people just seem to get ahead financially, almost like it's easy, while so many others are stuck struggling from one paycheck to the next? Well, today we're going to dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad, a book that's completely changed how millions of people think about money. And it argues that the secret isn't about how much you earn, but really how you think. It's a simple story with a seriously powerful message, so let's get right into it.
So the whole book is built on this one simple idea. The author, Robert Kiyosaki, he says he basically grew up with two dads teaching him about money. First, there was his poor dad, that was his actual father, a super smart, highly educated guy with a safe government job. But despite all that, he always seemed to be in a financial bind. Then you had his rich dad. This was his best friend's father, a guy who didn't even finish high school, but who went on to build a massive financial empire. So you've got two father figures with two totally different mindsets and, as you can imagine, two completely different outcomes. And this slide right here, this just lays out the massive difference in their thinking. It's night and day. Poor Dad's philosophy was all about fear and limitation. The love of money is the root of all evil, or his classic line, I can't afford it, which is, a statement that just shuts down your brain. Rich Dad, on the other hand, saw things completely differently. For him, the lack of money was the problem. And instead of saying, I can't afford it, he would ask a question, how can I afford it? Just that simple switch turns your brain from a passive spectator into an active problem solver. It's a total game changer.
Okay, so that brings us to the first huge lesson from the book. And honestly, this one is kind of a bombshell for most of us. Here it is. This is that huge mindset shift. See, from the time we're kids, most of us are programmed with the exact same formula. Go to school, get good grades, get a safe, secure job. We're taught to be employees, to trade our time for money. Rich Dad's lesson just flips that whole script upside down. He taught that the truly wealthy don't work for money. Instead, they build systems and buy assets that make money work for them 24/7, even while they're sleeping. You know that feeling, right? Maybe you get a pay raise at work, but somehow your expenses just magically rise to meet it. And at the end of the day, you're not really any farther ahead. Well, the book has a name for that. And here we have it, the rat race. It's that classic hamster wheel of modern life. You get up, you drag yourself to work, you earn some money, you pay your bills, and then you do it all over again. It's this endless cycle where you're working harder and harder just to stay in the same place. It's exhausting. And according to the book, the first step to actually escaping this race is to understand the two emotions that keep that wheel spinning. Yep, according to Rich Dad, our financial lives are pretty much run by these two very human and very, very powerful emotions. The first one is fear. We're talking about that knot in your stomach when you think about the rent being due, or the car breaking down, or, God forbid, losing your job. Fear is what gets most people out of bed in the morning to go to a job they might not even like. It's the voice that tells us to play it safe and just cling to that steady paycheck. And then, the second that paycheck hits your bank account, a totally different emotion takes over. Desire. Or you could call it greed. All of a sudden, you're dreaming about a bigger house, a fancier car, that amazing vacation, and desire is what makes you go out and spend all that money you just worked so hard for. So there's the trap, right? Fear pushes you to work, and desire makes you spend. That powerful 1-2 punch is the engine that keeps the rat race going and going. So if fear and desire are the engine of the rat race, how in the world do you get out? Well, the answer is in lesson 2, and it's all about getting smart with your money, what the book calls financial literacy. Rich Dad always said that most of people's financial problems come from not understanding one incredibly simple but really profound rule. Okay, so forget all those complicated technical definitions you might have heard. For Rich Dad, it's dead simple. An asset is anything that puts money in your pocket. That's it. Think of it like a little money machine that you own. It could be a rental property bringing in cash or stocks that pay you dividends. It puts money in your pocket. And a liability? Well, it's the exact opposite. A liability is anything that takes money out of your pocket. Things like a car payment, your mortgage, credit card debt. All these things are constantly pulling cash out of your wallet every single month. And this breaks it down so perfectly. On the left, you see the typical pattern for the middle class, buying liabilities that they've been told are assets. And here's the most controversial point in the whole book, your family home. Rich Dad says it's not an asset, it's a liability. Why? Because every single month it's taking money out of your pocket for the mortgage, taxes, insurance, and repairs. Now look at the right. The wealthy focus their energy on buying things that make money flow in. They buy real estate that generates rent. They buy stocks, bonds, businesses. They focus on acquiring true income-producing assets. This chart really shows you where the mental energy is spent. For most people, their financial world revolves around their income and their expenses. They're always thinking, how can I get a raise to cover my bills? But the rich, they have a completely different focus. Their main goal isn't just a bigger paycheck, it's a bigger asset column. They're obsessed with buying things that generate cash flow because they know that if they build that asset column big enough, the income from it will eventually make their salary totally irrelevant. And that idea leads us perfectly into the final core lesson, which really ties everything we've talked about together. The book tells this fantastic story about Ray Kroc, the guy who made McDonald's what it is today. He once asked a group of students what business he was in, and of course they all said, the hamburger business. But he said, no, I'm not in the hamburger business. My business is real estate. He understood that his profession was selling hamburger franchises, but his real business, the thing that was building his massive long-term wealth, was owning all the valuable land underneath every single one of those golden arches. And that brings us to this really important distinction. Your profession? That's your job. It's what you do to earn a paycheck, whether you're a teacher, a programmer, or a mechanic. It pays the bills. But your business, that's what you own. Your business is your asset column. And the advice here is so practical. Keep your day job. Use it to pay your living expenses. But then you have to start using some of that income to mind your own business, which means systematically buying assets, not liabilities. So, at the end of the day, what this all means is that real financial independence doesn't come from getting another promotion or a bigger salary. That's just a bigger wheel in the rat race. True freedom comes from building and growing that asset column. Minding your own business means you shift your focus from your income statement to your balance sheet, from your paycheck to your portfolio. And so that's the big question the book leaves us with. Most of us know our profession. We can tell someone our job title in a split second. But I want you to take a moment and really ask yourself, what is your business? What are you actually building that will one day have your money working for you? Because answering that question, that's what can change everything.